Well, I keep thinking that I'm going to rock up and do one of these videos after Derby Day and Norwich will have lost, but it still hasn't happened. We finished 1-1 here at Portman Road in a derby that was rather short on quality, has to be said, and good football, but plenty of endeavour, high energy, and a fair amount of incident too. So plenty to sift through. I think what we probably are aware of at the moment is that as both sides stand, it's going to be a difficult season for both. It's going to have to be ground out, and it'll be a question of which side can improve more as the season goes on, because both have got their varying degrees of projects going on, and different amounts of goodwill. Certainly a lot from the Ipswich fans, and the noise in here was as loud as I've heard it in a fair while. And clearly there's a lot of hope for them going forwards in terms of what they'll do and what Paul Hurst can achieve. I'm not sure that necessarily reconciles with what the side actually is, because to me it was a one-dimensional hoof fest, and really I saw Mick McCarthy sides in the last few years. I don't know if I was watching different games, but playing much better football. Even though they were direct and robust at times, they were playing much better football. There was no good football from Ipswich today at all, and I think Ipswich, having put out a lot of backing for their side today, they're going to have to do that going forwards, because I think they could be in for a really tough season. Which, of course, a lot of you will be saying, well, yeah, but it was only 1-1 and Norwich couldn't beat a pretty poor side, blah, blah, blah. And you know what? Fair enough. But sometimes you just have to take that, and maybe I'm more hopeful, having seen what Norwich have got in their locker, that they can improve. And here's probably the mitigation, because Emi Buendia, it was a brave decision for Daniel Farke to throw him in today, as with Max Aarons. I'll come on to Max, but throwing Emi, I think, in today was a big call, and he was obviously hoping to really see something from him. And there were some nice touches, but this was not really the game, and I think that became quite apparent as the game wore on, and he got lost in midfield, and the robustness of it. That was a rude awakening for Emi Buendia, and we will see much better for him over the coming weeks. Absolutely no doubt about that whatsoever. But today it probably didn't work. Jordan Rhodes was anonymous, and Ipswich shackled him pretty well in terms of stifling his service, and Norwich always looked more dangerous with their runners coming from midfield. Ipswich did take the lead. It was fairly even in the first half. Norwich probably had the slightly better chances, and Ipswich didn't really create anything majorly kick-up. Both sides hit the post from difficult angles. It was a bit of a ropey maybe start from Norwich, but once they got into it, they grew in it. First half of the second half was all about Ipswich, really. They were excellent. They pushed really hard. Gwen Edwards scored the opener with a heavily deflected shot, the wrong-footed Tim Krul, and it has to be said, if Gwen Edwards scores his second chance as he's running through, at that point, 2-0, game over. Actually, it wasn't long after that Norwich kind of really got into their stride for the first time and started creating some better moments. They had 3 golden opportunities in the space of about a minute, a couple of deflections and a decent save from Dean Gherkin, who was put in this afternoon. Big call from Paul Hurst to drop Bartosz Białkowski. As it was, in the end, they managed to make that mini pressure pay, and Maurice Leitner scored his first goal for the club. It was a wonderful strike too. I've not seen it back, but it certainly looked good in real time, and that was very good to see, because clearly what we all know what a good footballer is. He is, Mo Leitner, but when it's about creating assists, making things happen and scoring goals. I had a really good chat with him afterwards, and it'll be nice to put some of that stuff out over the next day or two, so you get to hear it, because he's a thoughtful and articulate guy, and you'd like to think it will come good for him, because he's got a lot of attributes that could do Norwich a big favour. Tim Closer didn't make it off to the second half. He got a big head knock, big clash of heads with Cole Skews. Cole was stretchered off. I don't know how he is. Obviously hope as well. It seemed like a really bad collision, and it was a lengthy treatment with him, so obviously wish him all the best. And Louis Thompson came on as a substitute midway through the second half, and then pulled his hamstring just at the point where Norwich made their third change. So Norwich effectively played the last 20 minutes with 10 men, and to be honest, I imagine Louis has done the hamstring a bit more seriously than he just come off. But he then also contributed to a chance here and there, and put in a remarkable effort. And Kwan had a massive cut down the side of his face. There's a lot of things that went on where Norwich put their bodies on the line. They defended really stoically for most of it, even when, it has to be said, they were looking pretty ropey at the start of the second half. So, a lot of effort that probably deserved the point. and we'll need to see much more. But I think given the month that we've had, the first month of the season, it's an international break, it's a time to take stock, there's no signings, there's none of this, that, the other. You can maybe get everyone together. And given the meltdowns Norwich have had over the last 2 seasons heading into the first international break, I think we'll take this. And clearly they've got a big game with Middlesbrough coming down first at the restart. But, a couple of 2 or 3 games where they've really got a chance to show that they can improve. And obviously I'm asking them to do that, because if they don't, then the pressure will come back in pretty substantial ways. So it's in their hands. We'll give them the chance to prove what they've got. But certainly in terms of the character and spirit, we don't really need to question it off the back of today, given they had kind of had a big shock to the system in terms of what they did against Leeds at Carrow Road and the way they made up for that. I mean, it was nice that at Cardiff, there were some good performances, and that those were noted and applied to the starting lineup today, which is why I'm going to talk about Max Aarons, because as an 18-year-old making his first championship start, and actually in his 3rd senior appearance, the first one we've seen at right back, so in his actual position, my goodness, he was solid for a game like this. In a derby atmosphere, 2,000 fans from Norwich, not in total, it was a few more than that, but a red hot atmosphere. He was outstanding and got forward well, defended well, played a good part in the game, didn't really put a foot wrong. He now has a chance to cement that. I mean, once Closer came off, Ben Godfrey came in and did well, but once Closer came off, we had a back 4 of Aarons, Godfrey, Hanley and Jamal Lewis. I mean, that is a young back 4 with barely any experience at all at championship level, and just a real fantastic effort and sight, given that it was a bit scratchy in places, as you would expect, but a real effort, and Max Aarons looks the real deal. We'll see how he progresses, because as with Jamal, it was the next few games where it got you started seeing mistakes, and you're sort of catching yourself up a bit when you're trying to adjust to the level permanently. But brilliant start from Max Aarons today, and absolutely first name on the right back team slot now going forward. It's just a question of how that they can go past. Oh, are you coming here? No instructions, just going to mow me down. There we go. Maybe if they won, he'd have said hello, but they didn't. So there we go. Whatever I was saying about Max Aarons, real deal, and I'm sure we'll see him starting at right back against Middlesbrough, which really says it all, given the league debut he's had today. He's still going, although maybe he's doing laps. Keeps going, hopes the result will change. I don't know. But there we go. Anyway, plenty more action from Alice. I'm sure there's loads of stuff I haven't touched on, but Norwich didn't lose, which is probably the main point when you get to this point of the derby, and we'll do it all again at Carrow Road in February time, I think it is. And from here on in, we can get stuck into the real championship nuts and bolts of playing football, and no sort of circuses around these sort of games, and we can actually thoroughly assess Norwich in terms of a 2-team battle and see how they're coming out, because quite literally they've got 5 points from their first 6 games. They need to pick up some more points. They need to do that relatively sharply, and they need to give themselves a chance away from home. I don't think they've led away from home yet. It's always been coming from behind, which they've managed. This is in the league, of course. They've managed to a degree so far, but certainly when it comes to Reading and QPR games away from home that are coming up in September, they need to get themselves a head in those, of course. But there we go. Anyway, plenty more reaction and analysis. PinkUn.com, you know where to visit, and enjoy your international break. Enjoy the England under-21s and all that sort of stuff, and we'll see you from Middlesbrough in a fortnight's time at Carrow Road.